I want to talk about photographing work. Photographing work is something that I feel should be done throughout the year from, the beginning to the end of each project. And I don't mean exhaustively, but it's great to have production or in progress photos, but certainly the photographs of the end product. So much of my instruction uses a range of examples for diagnostic purposes that for every project that I do. 15 years ago, the thought of collecting a range of successes seemed so daunting. But I think with current technology, it's super easy to snap a few pictures of student work in progress and then, of course, finished product. I think because it is for, in many cases, diagnostic purposes, it isn't necessary that the photos be shot with a backdrop or with great lighting. I think if you just try to avoid a lot of background noise, then, otherwise just snap away. However, for work that I want to photograph as an exemplar, I do take a bit more care and consideration. Additionally, I want to make sure that my advanced students understand what's involved in getting quality photos for their portfolios, and that's what we are going to cover on the following slides. So making sure that you have quality images that give clarification to those looking at your work on screen. So this is particularly important for IB and AP students, that when they photograph their work, they need to understand that this is for 3D. This is the only image that the people that are literally assessing their work are going to see. So you want to highlight the best parts of that work. So if you take a photograph and then you just zoom in, if it's a detail, great. But if you're just zooming in and there isn't more information that's going to help the viewer, then maybe consider a second view or a hyper zoomed in close detail. Again, since it isn't practical for AP readers or IB readers to see the work in person, then you need to make sure that you're giving them the best representation of the work that you can. So that means crystal clear images. There is no reason that there should be a blurry image or a pixelated image. So images need to be clear and show all detail. Having said that, it's important that the photograph is authentic. So yes, we want to give the best image possible, but that cannot mean that we are in any way altering the image or making corrections digitally to make the work look better. The work should look as the work looks in person. And that is really an important conversation that teachers should have with their students. We have these wonderful editing tools, but it isn't a photography course. It's a three-dimensional art course. And the work really does need to, the photographs of the work really need to represent how the work looks, flaws and all. And I understand that it's difficult for them. They use filters all the time on their own images, but it is really an important component of keeping the legitimacy of what they've done intact. One thing that you want to make sure that you do is when you're photographing 3D work, make sure that there is not a bunch of background noise. So as plain a surface as possible. Students struggle with this, but it can even be, depending on the size of the work, it can even be just a sheet of paper. Something that's going to take away pattern, or I don't know, whatever is in the background beyond the form. We want to make sure that that noise is not interfering with the image, because again, especially if these are IB or AP kids, you have someone at a different location that doesn't know anything about the student and their process. All they have is this image to rely on, and we want to make sure that we are giving them the best rendition of this image and as close to the actual likeness as possible. Along with that, you want to try to avoid cast shadows and also reflection. So you can see where there's a cast shadow here, and you can also see where the light is reflected. And so photographing your work on a dull surface as opposed to a shiny surface is good. Using matte gray background helps, and shooting the work in outside in cloud coverage. So when it is not sunny, so it's cloudy and you're outside, you're gonna avoid a lot of those cast shadows and reflections. Make sure that the work is the focal point of the photograph. So make sure that you are not zooming it out and leaving a bunch of weird negative space where the work is not in either the center or close to center. Make sure that your students are photographing their work from different angles and doing close-ups to highlight textures and techniques that might otherwise be lost on a distance shot. So with an AP portfolio and probably an IB portfolio, although I'd have to check, you can have multiple images on a single slide. So it's worth it to get those details in there. Another good practice is to experiment with different ways of presenting work. So here I have a couple of examples. One is on black sand and the other one on some split wood. And it has really elevated the work stylistically and just visually, thinking about these forms on this sort of base. And it really makes the photograph a lot richer and I think makes the work seem more sophisticated. If you have work that asks or invites viewers in to see what's going on with the work, then you absolutely want to get a picture of that. You do not want to miss that viewer interaction. Likewise, with any work that is an installation piece, particularly if there is if the work is being documented to show what happens to the work over time, you want to make sure that you are getting those photos. Here, not only was it seasonally over time, but it had a lot to do with the interaction with the elements, but the end result was also interaction with the human element. So getting the work photographed or documented with its intention is really important.